We've been reporting on the quick decline of Baen Books during this year, and now Larry Correia has made a big, rambling post about Monster Hunter International that it's coming to an end. This main storyline is done. He's done with it. He wants it to end. And for the past year or two, he's actually not been writing for Baen Books, but been writing for other publishers, he's revealed in this post. About everything we've reported is coming true at this juncture. This is really, really wild. It's crazy that they worked so hard over there to try to hide things from us, to denigrate us in the process, while we're telling the truth and what's going on in science fiction and fantasy. That's why we're the real science fiction and fantasy news right here. You've hit the right spot, my friends. The reports that nobody else will tell you in the industry because they're scared. They're just clout junkies over and everywhere else, including the Daniel Greens of the world, and they want access to these publishers. We don't do that. We just tell the truth of what's going on, and this is a crazy story today. So please hit the like and subscribe button and join us, my friends. Really appreciate you being here, where you get the news nobody else has. I'm a science fiction writer myself. If you are a fan of Larry Correia, I have looked at all of my books, and it seems like the also bots are a bunch of Monster Hunter International and Son of a Black Sword. You will really enjoy my books. I really think that we have a lot in common. And so I would love for you to check out Justified Saga, the Nano Templar. It's a great place to start. I've got 20-plus books out there. I work really hard just like Larry, and so it's a great place to be a fan with evergreen content always coming out just for you, just like Larry's got going on in his universes as well. So check this out. It's in the description below. This is Crusading in Space. It's badass. It's action-packed. Really enjoyable stuff. There's a full book trilogy, and you can get it on ebook, print, and audio. I'll put that as the first link in the description. Thank you guys so much for supporting our channel and supporting our fiction as we talk about what goes on in sci-fi and fantasy. So Baen Books has been under just a little bit of scrutiny over the last year because there's been some problems brewing there. We've heard word of authors having issues getting payments. We've heard of rumblings that there's trouble there, that Toni Weisskopf is going to be she's the editor-in-chief, retiring in the next couple of years, and there's no clear succession. We've had a bunch of editors out. There were some layoffs last year going on, just showing that things are not going very well. In the midst of this, Larry Correia is their biggest seller, and so if you don't know how publishing works, publishers have like one or two or three big sellers, and they kind of float the rest of the company. They try to build everybody else up and actually pay for a lot of the books which end up being losses, with the big windfalls from these sort of authors out here. So when Larry Correia actually moves a bunch of his books and stops selling his best-selling series, for example, they're actually losing a lot of money on the financial end and then can't support the next level up to build the authors for the next generation. Baen Books really doesn't have anybody in the stable who's been moving up and moving the needle like they really need to replace a lot of their aging authors at this point, and it's caused a lot of problems for them. It looks like the company refuses to change in the dynamic markets out there, refuses to grow, and Larry Correia seems to see the writing on the wall right here because he is moving his books quite a bit. And in this new rant, he's actually confirmed quite a bit of stuff that speculating about for a while, and we'll get into this right here. So if you don't know, earlier this year, Arc Press announced that they existed, and I looked into it. I wasn't supposed to look into it. They didn't want me to look into it, and I found that Peter Thiel and his investment group funded them. They're not some small press just kind of barely scraping by. They're getting big money, and so Larry Correia was announced as their main book guy, their flagship author, who's going to be doing, and they said this on their Twitter feed, a Monster Hunter International style series like urban fantasy. And you're like, that's weird. Why would he move to another publisher to do that when Baen Books really does that? So I started looking into things, and I talked to some insiders at the company, and it turned out some pretty interesting things were happening. Baen Books was attempted to be bought by Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel was declined, and so that's what caused him to start this new press to begin with. Then Arc Press stole a couple of Baen Books editors and former Baen Books editors, poached a bunch of their talent, and Baen actually had to replace editors really quickly, which was not going well for them at the time. Larry being announced with this was another surprise, and of course, Larry apparently went to Baen Books with this series first, and I don't know if he has a right of first refusal or how their contracts work, but apparently Baen declined the series. And that tells me one thing, because Larry Correia books print money for Baen Books. That means that whatever advance Peter Thiel's paying, they thought they couldn't pay that out. There's no other reason they wouldn't accept this in this juncture, and of course, I've tried to get comments from Toni Weisskopf and others on this, and gotten shut on that because they just did not want to admit this was happening. Now, once that all came out, because I leaked all this, Larry made another rant saying he's actually making another self self-published book out there. And then finally, Baen Books also announced that they're going to be doing a Larry Correia book in series later this year. Now, Baen Books is the premier lit RPG group. That's some of the stuff that's like really crushing it right now in fantasy. And of course, he wants to get in on this, and Baen Books would love to have an author like that. So it makes for a good pairing. Baen Books is doing everything right and just really building. I mean, I've been super impressed with everything I've seen so far by them. This is no difference right here. And I'm very much actually looking forward to that book later this year. So, with that background right now, you can kind of be like, why would Baen Books' top author be diversifying himself out of Baen Books with 3 series in different locations? This is kind of weird. And, from a business perspective, it's pretty interesting too. Now, Larry's not a business slouch either. He comes from an accounting background, and he's actually a very shrewd businessman. So when he sees there are business problems, of course he's going to want to diversify. Of course he's want to get out of Dodge. When he used to be at Baen Books was the only place in town for maybe a conservative-leaning author to kind of get big and get into bookstores and the like, but the market's really changed, and that's not really needed anymore. They're going by the wayside. They've refused to update even their website in the last 20 years. It looks like a nightmare out of GeoCities 1997. They have nobody marketing. They don't have any publicist whatsoever because they fired their one publicist, so they really don't have a lot going on. They need Larry a lot more than Larry needs them is what it comes down to, and that's exactly what I think is spurring this decision right here. So he posted to Facebook kind of confirming a lot of stuff of what's going on, and here's his really long-winded rant right here, and this is just kind of how he talks. He says, because I can't promote anything without people asking me when's the next Monster Hunter, and gosh, that is something that authors get quite a bit. I get asked that about a lot of my series as well. He says, I guess I need to throw something out there. Monster Hunter 9 and 10 are getting written back-to-back in 2026. So full stop on this. Monster Hunter 9 is something that has been asked for a long time. He hasn't started writing it yet. It's 2025. That means he didn't write it in 2024, didn't write it in 2025, and isn't going to write it till 2026. Now think about this from a Baen Books perspective, just before we get into the really bombshell that's coming out here. They're not going to have a book ready to come out with until 2027. That's 3 years of no Monster Hunter International. That is a crisis of revenue for them. That's absolutely crazy, and it's because he's been prioritizing other things. So he's going to do these back-to-back because number 10 is going to be called Monster Hunter Omega, which, of course, Alpha to Omega. There's been a Monster Hunter Alpha. You know what that means? That means it's the end of the series, and that means he's going to be tapping out with these 2 books to close things out right here. Now, Larry does stick the landing with his fantasy series. He did a wonderful job of closing that out and just got that done this year. So I expect these to be very good and very well done. But again, this from a business perspective is really wild because this is his moneymaker beyond anything else. It's Baen Books' moneymaker before anything else. And he's punting it for another year. So what's going on here? He says, why did I write 3 books in 2024 that weren't in the series you particularly wanted? And why am I writing 3 more books in 2025 that aren't the ones you particularly want? Well, this is a 3-part answer. Interesting on this level. He says, artistically, because I feel like it. Most long series start to suck. He's 100% right on all of this. And he says, you thought of a different series when I said that. My thought here was Dragon Riders of Pern as a big Anne McCaffrey fan. And, of course, Lois McMaster Bujold's series from Baen, which the last couple, while they were readable, they were not like they were in her heyday, of course. When authors flog the same horse over and over and over again, it gets tired and dies. And Monster Hunter's made it 8 books, 4 spin-offs, 2 anthologies, etc., and has not gotten lame because I go write other stuff and then I come back to this universe when I'm excited to be there. I'm glad he has the luxury to do that because a lot of artists actually really don't, and that's what causes a lot of this stuff to begin with. He's 100% right here. Business-wise, normally Monster Hunter International has been spaced out every 2 to 3 years. They were a lot closer to the beginning. This time has been longer because other books moved ahead in the queue. I really wanted to finish Saga of the Forgotten Warrior. Great series, guys. I can't state that enough. So that the final book would come out over 10 years and over book 1, which could be a complete epic fantasy series, kind of a big deal right now. Next, during that time frame, 3 other publishing houses, which operate entirely different markets than I usually do, approached me about doing stuff that is outside of my main publisher's business plan. So I ended up writing a nonfiction book about a topic I've been passionate about, gun rights. I wrote a progression fantasy for Baen Books so I could try my hand at KU, which is the currently biggest pot of money in the fiction market. And then finally, a brand new publishing house, ARC, wanted me to be one of their flagship authors. Now let's full stop right here. He says that's out of Baen's business plan. But again, we went and we talked to people inside here and we learned that this was a urban fantasy series that was similar to Monster Hunter International. So that would have been very much in Baen's wheelhouse to do. He intentionally went somewhere else because they were clearly offering him more money. That is where the market is. So as much as he is kind of trying to mitigate things here and say there's not, try to make it look like it's an artistic and thing, but business-wise, clearly it's better to go other places than to go to Baen over the last 3 years. That's a huge deal. And I've heard this from a lot of authors at Baen Books that they're really not happy with what's going on. There was actually one author that I met a while back. Their marketing is so poor by that company that he didn't even know his book was coming out until somebody told him it was already out because they texted him about it. The company didn't even tell him. It's pretty wild. Now, Larry Correia, of course, doesn't need that kind of marketing. His stuff, of course, gets out there big no matter what because of his name already. But again, it's another instance where it's like, if that company's failing and on the chopping block right there, of course he's going to want to get out of Dodge and move the business somewhere else. This is a huge deal. We have 2 full years worth of books where he's not writing for Baen Books. He's writing elsewhere. And this is Baen's flagship author as well. This company is in huge trouble, everybody. This is big deal. This is their huge revenue maker, and they're not going to be getting this windfall over the next couple of years because he didn't write anything for them over the last couple of years. And in fact, he's not going to start writing anything for them until next year, which again, can a company survive 2-3 years at that point? We'll see what happens at this level. So he continues, and he talks about this. He says he hates getting stagnant and all that. And he says when publishers throw bags of money at them, I'd be stupid not to try it, of course. And he said, personally, I had some things happen after Bloodlines came out, which I never talked about online, which killed my enthusiasm for a long while. I got through it. I hope everything's going okay for him over there. So, is it really Monster Hunter Omega? Yes, this is the big deal. Does it mean the end of the line for the series? Not the end for the universe. And this is interesting right here, the end for the mainline storyline. Now, the mainline storyline is the one that sells beyond anything else. The other stuff does sell off of the brand name, but not quite as much. And what this really means is that he's going to be writing other stuff, and they're going to keep things open, and they're going to keep the contracts there so that they can, quote, co-write with other authors right there. The co-written Monster Hunter Internationals have not been nearly as well received because Larry doesn't write them. It's somebody else who goes and writes them, and it just doesn't have the flair or the style that, of course, everybody's used to in the series. And so it doesn't feel quite right. No matter what it is, it's not just a thing with him. This is a thing with all of these co-written series that are like this. I'll go back to Anne McCaffrey when she had The Ship Who Sang, and then, of course, all these co-writers came in. It still didn't feel right even with that sort of thing. We got Eric Flint's universe, very similar. Those other writers are not Eric Flint, so it just doesn't feel like Eric Flint books. It's actually a good system that actually helps get some authors' names out there, and it's really nice of Larry to do that and lend his hand to some of these other authors, but of course it's not nearly the same thing. So in reality, the Monster Hunter series is ending. This is a big deal. This is a destruction for Baen Books because if he's got his series going elsewhere, he's got his urban fantasy at Arc Press, he's got his Aethon Books series going on now, he's got his self-published series that's going out as well. When's he going to start another new series for Baen Books, and is it going to sell anywhere near as much as Monster Hunter International? I don't think so. That means they're in big trouble because an author would not make a move like this unless they were in big trouble because he wouldn't need to go anywhere else. They'd just be paying him off. Tor Books, of course, just pays John Scalzi a couple $1 million every time his contract needs to get renewed, and they do so because they're backed by Macmillan, who has huge money to them. Baen Books doesn't have that luxury. They're a dying company, and this is going to be the death knell that really does them in. Crazy stuff. This is the biggest fantasy news I've seen in a long time. And of course, we broke it down for you here in a way that nobody else is going to because, of course, everybody else is a little too afraid for the clout structures here. But that's exactly why we're the most trusted name in science fiction and fantasy. And I appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoyed my analysis of this. Interesting stuff. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. Love to hear from you. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And again, if you enjoy Larry Correia's books, I know you'll really love Justified Saga of the Nano Templar and this entire series. Grab the trilogy today. Support us and support what we're doing here because we're building the future of science fiction and fantasy right here today. It's available on ebook, print, and audio. I really appreciate you for being here.